So I want to clear up a few things about the Rosie Gonzalez video. First of all, several people have said, why didn't the ADA person do something? That was an assistant district attorney ADA, not Americans with Disabilities Act ADA. This gets confused all the time with the courts. I'll call in and ask to speak to the ADA coordinator. They think I mean the assistant district attorney, and I have started in my practice to say I'm a certified Americans with Disabilities Act advocate. I need to speak to whoever's in charge of your Americans with Disabilities Act accommodations, instead of saying ADA to the courts, because they already don't know how the ADA works. And so I have to just go ahead and delineate out all that speech. Secondly, there have been several people making comments, and I've deleted a shit ton of comments, and yet there are still a shit ton that have come on. And the line's kind of gray on some of them. But any comments that wish harm on Rosie Gonzalez, gone. They don't get onto the page. And I don't agree with them. What I want to see is her held accountable. So I will say this. The fact that she purports to be a spokesperson for the LGBT community makes it look like the LGBT community's spokesperson is anti-ASD or disability. Just saying, you people might want to say something to separate yourselves from this mess. Because right now it seems like your spokesperson, the one who says she wants, I had a mouth, or whatever it was that she said she wanted as her final words. She is purporting to be your spokesperson, and her actions are displaying that spokesperson is anti-disability, anti-equal access, anti-marginalized communities of people who are disabled. Just saying, you might want to separate yourself from her. Period. The other thing is, this is a matter that who knows if it will be resolved or not. I mean, it's not her first time at bat with people rising up against her, and for other reasons. And I'm gonna be real clear here and say, I'm not here to attack the LGBT community. I don't have a problem with being who they need to be, as long as you don't harm me. And that's where I'm okay with Rosie being a judge, as long as you don't harm me. And me is my cause of the ADA rights. And so right now, you've harmed an entire populace, an entire population set of people who have disabilities. I am thankful for all of the parents who have come on here with autistic children who say how much this enrages them, because autistic children cannot help. When you saw that kid lay his head over on his caregiver or whoever that was on her shoulder, that just, man, that's where we all want to be. We all want to be comforted. And this child or person or individual or Mr. Ponce has never had the opportunity to get out of that scenario. And here he is in a scenario where somebody is raging against him for behavior that he cannot help. And so it looks like this video is going viral as well. And the last thing I want to say is, for those of you who say that I shouldn't use foul language, there's a term called lalokizia, Lalocchezia. And this term talks about the relief of pain or stress through the use of vulgarity or profanity. And it's a made-up term for an actual phenomenon. They've done studies on dipping people into ice baths and saying you can't say anything. And these people have to get out quickly. And then they warm them back up and say, okay, now you can cuss or do whatever you want to. And they last twice as long. Think about when you hit your finger with a hammer. What do? You let out a string of obscenities. This, for me, is my way of healthily releasing my rage about a system that says that it purports to be fair, and yet it does the exact opposite. When I first started going to mental health counseling in Portland, Oregon, I had a doctor or counselor that wanted to loop me into general anxiety disorder and depression. And I said, hold on a minute. I said, if I'm depressed, if I'm generally anxious, it's because the system that says it does one thing does another, and it doesn't live up to what it proclaims and purports that its values are. It's not because I have a chemical imbalance or that I'm just down all the time. There's a reason behind this, and it's not fixable. I don't want to be on I can't think of the name of them. When you take every month or every day, you take a, I can't think of the name of that pill. Fuck. It just totally drew a blank, my mind did, on that. So anyway, I didn't want to be put on drugs. And I didn't want to be put on drugs because my goal is to keep going towards the fear. I have a doctrine in my life called the law of darkness. And I have this tattooed on my body, Lex Tenebris. And the reason I have it on my body is because it's become my task to go toward my darkest, deepest fear and ask it what authority or control it has over me. And I've seen much freedom this way. That's where our own light shines within us. When we're in the 40 days of wilderness, when we're in the Garden of Gethsemane, wherever we are that's darkest, that's where our light shines, is when we say, I don't want to go through this, but I have to. And so when I cuss, and right now I'm not cussing, but when I cuss, it's because I'm extremely angry and or triggered, and I need a way to let that out healthily. And if it bothers you, would it bother you if I were wearing a dress, or if I had on makeup, or I was doing a get ready with me showing you how I do my makeup? Would that bother you? Well, if that doesn't bother you, then by God, shut the fuck up about me saying a few cuss words to emphasize and express how I feel about this system that says it purports to be fair, just, impartial, and with integrity, and call these people on the bench Your Honor, when we've got one rogue judge anyway in Rosie Gonzalez, another one in Moreland that I showed a few days ago. I run into these people with ADA. They do not want to provide equal access for people with disabilities. And the people who say you should have to prove ADA, no, you shouldn't have to prove ADA to get, or at least that you have the right to ask for an accommodation to get an accommodation in court. That's what the ADA says. The ADA says whether or not an individual meets the definition of disability should not demand extensive analysis. The main focus of goals brought in ADA cases are whether or not the covered entity performed its duty under the ADA Title II and didn't discriminate. And that goes on all the time, or I wouldn't continue to be doing this for almost 8 years now later. So I hope that clears up some stuff. But honestly, if you're a member of the LGBT community in Texas, you need to think about at least issuing a statement that says that the LGBT community doesn't support discrimination against autistic individuals or people with disabilities, because right now your spokesperson is acting otherwise.